Welcome, everyone, and special thanks to those that are joining from Peter Gregg's channel. He did a great job plugging me. His live stream was awesome, and now we're here to continue, which some have said this is the Peter Gregg after party. But welcome. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, and on this live stream, we're going to talk about a simple DSLR setup for live streaming. Now, what you see here and what I got playing like right next to me is a live stream that I did a little over a week ago. And if you look at that quality, oh my gosh, that is just not what I'm trying to do. What's up, Vajor Vadkin? What's up, Carl? And welcome to the live stream. This is awesome to have you guys here. So anyway, let's get straight to the point. My audio is not exactly perfect, and I'll mention that why right now. It's a little bit of electrical interference that I've got going on, but I'll explain how that happens and how you can avoid that so that it doesn't happen to you like it's happening to me due to unfortunate circumstances. But if you can, bear with me, we'll go over my setup. So now that's the first most important question. If you look at what's next to me, that was filmed with a webcam. Okay, so I obviously didn't have the availability of my DSLR. That's because it was recently broken and it was actually in the shop. And I didn't have availability of a microphone at all. So this setup that I had to use was literally, I had a laptop and a webcam, and I was just watching the webcam and speaking into like my gamer headset that I had on, just so that you can hear me clearly, because even the audio wasn't working at all the way I wanted it. So it was just not a cool setup. And actually in that moment that you see right next to me, I'm actually telling you why, or at least I was telling my audience at that point, why it wasn't working out. So how did I get from that to this? It's really quite simple. And the point of this is not just to get, to explain how a live stream works and a complicated setup. It's the fact that to set up your DSLR mirrorless camera and get a professional looking setup like this doesn't have to cost a lot, especially if you spent a lot of money, buying your DSLR, buying a nice lens to it, and now you want to start doing YouTube and doing live streams, and then you're like, how do I simplify this, because I just spent a lot of money on that setup. I want everything as inexpensive or as free as you can possibly get. Well, that's what I'm here for. Let's get on with it, and let's get to see what my setup looks like and kind of what I did to hook it up. So I had a video that I pre-recorded, and I'll be speaking live, and we'll just kind of dive right into how I set it up. Now let's switch. Whoop. All right, so that's my chair that I'm sitting with right now. I was actually recording audio as I was speaking right here and like holding my hand and saying, okay, you distract yourself with my hands as I walk around in my little studio. But the audio, I blew out the audio in this little recording, so I'll just kind of walk you through it right now. So here is the Canon 5D Mark IV that I'm currently using. Now this 5D is hooked up directly to my computer, and if you see, look to the right of it, it's an HDMI cable. It's a mini HDMI that actually comes out of the 5D, and this wire, if you follow it all the way down, connects to a particular device right into a USB 3 port, and it's a Cam-Link HDMI to USB 3.0 converter. Now this converter is able to basically send the signal from your camera right into your computer. And what it does, it's a very simple setup, because all you have to do is plug it in, and your computer will recognize it as a webcam. So it thinks that you just have a webcam, and it's just going to work off of that. So that's basic first startup when it comes to the actual connection of the camera into the computer. And that's as simple as it gets. I actually left a link in the description so that you guys can know how much it is and where to pick it up from. Now, the version that I use here is the 1080p version, but I linked the 4K version in case you guys have a better camera. Now you see this little pole that I've got here. It's out of focus. This pole is actually a microphone pole, which I'm actually speaking into right now. And that is what connects to this device, which is the Zoom H4n. It's like a portable microphone recorder. And what that does is that it acts like a mini studio. I plug in the microphone into this device, and this device, when I turn it on and plug it into another USB port into my computer via that cable that's right next to there, it actually pretty much is another audio source in your computer. So that in itself, when I bought it, it ran roughly about $300, and I'm actually not paying attention as I move the camera around in that particular scene. But what I was trying to do is actually plug it into this USB 3.0 like little converter thing that goes right into my computer. Right when you plug it in, the device turns on and it's its own little studio. And the fact that you can change it from storage to audio interface right there, right on the actual setup, and then you can choose the frequency of what type of hertz you want to connect to the computer, and then it just waits and then acts like a normal audio setup. That in itself lets you control levels, control the quality of the microphone and what you have. 5D Mark IV is a great camera if it's what you were mentioning. I definitely love the autofocus in this camera, and actually the colors. Speaking of the colors, while this little video plays, if you noticed in my past video, and I think this is roughly about around the end of this little video, so I'll just go back to my low quality video that I had before I get to the next portion. The 5D Mark IV itself has great colors that you can work with to get really natural skin tones, as what you see with me right now, as opposed to that little video where I'm kind of like washed out with the webcam. And that was simply done by using a grade card, custom profile, just pretty much set that on the camera with the lights that I'm using right now, and just get it working. And then once I got those colors working, it was just all natural. It's kind of like the look that you get here. But there was a separate issue that I did have that I wanted to kind of go over with you guys as well. So besides the audio issue, now I was trying to fix the audio, thinking that it was this microphone. This microphone, I'm sure you can pick up at least some sort of interference. And this microphone, I thought, which is a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. Actually, no, the Rode Video Mic Pro without the Plus, because it doesn't have a power adapter. I was thinking that maybe it was the different audio levels, that because you can have it boost up the bass or reduce like the decibel level and the output. I thought that might be it, but it wasn't. I tested all three levels and it wasn't working. So that's quite unfortunate. But what was causing it was definitely the electrical power. Now this gets into like, way too much territory. And unfortunately in this studio that I have right here, I couldn't get around it. When connecting audio to your computer in particular, what's very important is the power sources that you're using in your home and how well it's grounded. Now, for the minimal to no interference when you're running such a complicated setup, is to, if you have like one outlet, see if you can plug everything that you need in that studio, unfortunately, in that one outlet, so everything's evenly grounded. If you plug it into several wall outlets in that same room, what can happen is you have several different ground points, and this can cause slight interference in audio. And then you get kind of a feedback like what I'm getting right now. So Mayor Vaknin is asking, if I upgrade right now, what's my budget? My budget is right now nothing to upgrade. If I was to upgrade to a camera, I'd definitely be looking at the EOS R5. EOS R5 sounds like an amazing upgrade to the 5D Mark IV. And if that happened, I would be willing to give up my 5D Mark IV. I've had my 5D Mark IV since it basically launched in 2016. So I would think that it's time to upgrade to a mirrorless camera finally from Canon that pretty much checked all the boxes. I haven't done so to this point because even the EOS R and the EOS RP, of course, didn't meet my expectations of what I wanted. But the new R5 specs that seem to be released, you know, with the in-body image stabilization and the possible full-frame 4K, have caught my attention. Where the 5D Mark IV to me is comparable to the EOS R. And the EOS R, slightly better dynamic range and slightly better features and a better codec when it comes to 4K. However, not enough for me to jump. And that's why I've stuck with the 5D Mark IV. But that might be my next upgrade, which means I'd be looking to sell cameras. Now, if you came from Peter's channel, Peter mentioned that there was a secret camera. Now, he mentioned that I have the 5D Mark IV and that I have Panasonic. Now, Panasonic that I have is the GH5. Another camera that I have is the Canon 6D. But that's not the surprise camera. And I mentioned in that stream, I have the 5D Mark IV and I have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Another camera actually that I didn't mention that I also kind of have is the Canon M50. But I rarely use it for anything professional. It's mostly for personal pictures and video. But the secret hidden camera, and I've got two of these, and it's amazing, and they don't sell it anymore, is the ever so trustworthy Samsung NX1. In fact, that footage that you were seeing, that I was showing you, was actually filmed real quick with the Samsung NX1, which does 4K. It's an APS-C sensor. It does 4K up to 30 frames per second. It also does cinema 4K at 24 frames per second, slow motion at 120 frames per second, 1080p with full autofocus and audio while you record that fast. And you can switch between just recording normally or recording slow motion. But if you record the slow motion setting, it won't really record the audio. But if you leave it recording regular, it'll do 120 frames per second. Installed right here, I've also got the 16 to 20 2 to 2.8 S lens on this APS-C sensor. And this APS-C sensor on this camera was the first backside illuminated sensor. It also is a 6 or 6.5K sensor that uses the full width of the sensor to downgrade to 4K, or like pretty much get the footage to 4K, which gets it a really high quality. Glad to see that you're here, Peter Greg. Welcome, of course, to the stream. So I'm just telling everybody about the secret camera that you mentioned. So, and this lens, 16 to 50 actually, 2 to 2.8. Amazing zoom. But hang on, I don't want to knock my stream. I actually have a second one. So it's two Samsung NX1s, and this is an amazing 50 to 150 f 2.8 S lens on the second Samsung NX1. And both of these cameras, especially when working on them together, is incredibly amazing. Only one SD card slot though. It's UHS 2. But the quality that you get off of it is incredible. And it records off of an H.265 codec, which is a higher level of compression. It's kind of like an advanced codec for compression that lets you record higher quality at a smaller bitrate. When it came out though, it was a little too advanced for some people, so it was causing problems with people's computer and they had to convert the footage. But when I played it, you just saw me playing it right now, I didn't convert that footage at all. I just took it and ran with it. Now, there's some test footage. Now, and this is what I mean. I'm jumping right back to the whole setup. So you saw what I've got the cameras hooked up to. You saw my audio setup. But there's another important thing of live streaming, and that's lighting. Lighting is Very, very important. I actually am using regular light bulbs, but they're 500-watt light bulbs. And it's a 3-light system studio. So it's aimed at my green screen that I have. Lewis guest, make sure your cell phone is not near your audio. That's what it sounds like to me. My cell phones are actually right here, but I'll toss them to the room. And if that improved the sounds, you let me know. But I've actually had my cell phones close before. So if it improved, Lewis, let me know. Thanks for that tip. But it's usually related to power. So what was I saying? So the lighting setup itself was actually a very inexpensive 3-point lighting system that I bought from Amazon years ago. Now it runs very hot, but you're saying it's fixed. If that's what it took to fix it, Lewis, you're a miracle worker. I'll rewatch this live stream, but if it did fix it, then you heard it here first. Whoops, it came back. Ugh, disappointing. Like I said, it has to do with the power. I actually tested it, and this is how I know. I tested it with my laptop, not hooked up to any power, just battery powered. And my laptop didn't have any interference. As soon as I plugged my laptop into power, boom, it had interference. And the reason that the interference might be going and then coming back is that I have a noise reduction on the software that I'm using, which I'll tell you in a moment. And that in itself is helping reduce the interference as much as possible. But anyway, moving on. Thanks for that tip, though. Might as well experiment. So this 3-point lighting system was amazing, but I tried to do just 2 lights and not a light behind me. And I'll show you kind of what that looked like before I set up and had the lights hooked up properly. And here's what it looked like. Now, I don't have any special background set up here, but if you look at that screen, hold on. It kind of got small here. But if you look at that screen, and I'm frozen here, let me play. It was kind of dark on the right side of my face that you can see there. And I wasn't actually pleased at all with that look. It just was disappointing. And it wasn't, I just didn't want that side of my face to not be as well lit as it is now. And what I did was, and I'm going to pull up this video right here, is I turned on a third light. I turned on basically a third light for the whole setup. And let's see if I can fast forward. All right, so like I said, like I was showing you right here, it's really dark as I was testing the recording, and I had a microphone close to my mouth there so I can test the audio right there, and it was still interference. Like, it takes a lot of work to do these setups. And if you see those lights above, I thought that those lights, my ceiling lights actually, would be sufficient enough to give me the backlight that I need. I didn't want to try too much, but you know, something with a backlight like that would hopefully help to illuminate my face, but the intensity of the lights that are in front of me weren't sufficient. So and behind my green screen right there, if you can kind of tell, is that I've got a third light just illuminating the walls. And what that does is that it helps soften that pure light off of these white walls and come right back down on me, and then help kind of lighten up this part of my face, because I don't really have any lights behind me or space for lights behind me. It's actually pretty tight back there behind me, as you can see. So that in itself helped with the whole situation. Now, let's review what we've got connected to this computer before we continue on. So, and I'll give you like price estimates as to what this cost me, but you can actually look these up in Amazon or Google them or whatever, and that'll give you the answer that you want. So, DSLR with lens, that'll cost you whatever that costs you. It's up to you what you choose for DSLR mirrorless. Just note that it's best that if you're still in the market to buy a camera, buy one with a clean HDMI out. There are some cameras like my 6D that I've got on the other side of the room that camera does not have clean HDMI out. That does not mean that I can't figure out a way to get it to work. It's just not as high quality, but you can still figure out a way to get it to work. And I'll show you that in a second if that's what your camera does. So got the DSLR mirrorless camera, the HDMI cable. If it's not full-size HDMI, then buy either a mini or micro HDMI on one port, and then a full-size HDMI on the other side of that cable. That plugs into the CamLink adapter, HDMI to USB 3 adapter. And that CamLink has to be connected to USB 3.0 connection on your computer. If it's USB 2.0, then it won't work. So USB 3.0, you can tell what those ports are if you see like a little blue connector on your computer's end. And if not, some USB 3.0 ports actually don't have that blue connector. They might be a 3.1 or 3.2 connection, and they might not have that little blue strip, but sometimes you get an indicator that tells you exactly what it is if it's USB 3.0, which helps. So that's that one connection, which that's around $130 last I checked for the 4K version. I think I paid $70 for this one. The 4K was 130, but I'm only streaming in 1080p, so I didn't feel I needed 4K. But if you want to future-proof yourself, definitely go for 4K. So I've got the microphone set up, which is just a mic pole and then the mic itself. You can use anything when it comes to microphones, as long as you can get clean audio, which unfortunately I'm not getting. But the more you pay for the microphone, the better the quality. I almost recommend those desk USB microphones, but I just kind of wanted to keep my hands free because I speak with my hands a lot, and if I had one of those USB microphones, I'd knock it away. And I don't want to do that. So the USB microphone's above me, just at a shot. And this whole setup is, I paid way too much for it. The Zoom H4n was like $200, and the microphone itself was the $300 microphone, but you don't have to pay that much. Just get a good quality, like $50 USB microphone, and you're set. Lewis guest, are you using speakers right now? No, I'm not. I have all my speakers and all audio muted. It's just me, so there's no interference from at least that perspective. So okay, we got microphone, we got camera, lights. Lights cost less than $100 total for all three light setup, and it uses light bulbs that cost maybe $2. $500 watt light bulbs for like $2. Again, they're not very energy efficient, and unfortunately they run hot because they're not LEDs. But if you want to save some money and you have a cool room that you can work out of, which I certainly don't, so I'm really hot right now, that'll help light you. And then you need a computer, and that's it. And your computer itself, I'm hoping that you have a decent fast computer with a USB 3.0 connection, and maybe like if you have Intel and an i5 processor would be sufficient. You don't even need a complicated graphics card, though graphics cards help. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you can, of course, live stream and run everything that you're running. And of course, always what's recommended for live stream is a fast internet connection. The faster, the better. And you can use software to run your stream, but if you don't have a too fast of an internet connection, I would almost recommend slowing your quality down to a smaller bit rate so that you can still have a smooth stream without having any mistakes. Now, if you have any questions, please throw them at me. I'm still trying to show you. But like I said, the final part of this whole thing is the actual software that you're going to use. And that is one of the most pleasant things about this. I'm going to switch to the software itself. Scene 1, see, that's me here. Scene 2 is the video that I was playing. Boom, it switches to the next angle. I guess you're losing me if I'm switching to that third angle. I forgot to set up that third angle, but basically I was saying that's the software. I'm going to actually, while I'm here with you, I'm going to actually add the audio link to that third angle, which I unfortunately didn't set up or forgot to set up with this live stream because I was putting this all together as Peter Gregg was streaming on his channel. So I'll show you how that goes. You're not going to hear me until I activate the audio, which you're going to see how easy it is to do here. Give me 1 second. You won't hear me when I switch, but then you'll hear me when I actually connect it. It takes 2 seconds. It doesn't take long. Hit OK, and now you can hear me. It just took, you could basically add audio tracks as you desire. I had the desktop muted for little interference as possible. This software is great because you could basically design your own scenes and setup. When you go into settings, this settings let you decide how fast you want to go, how you stream, how fast the stream is, the bit rate, the audio. All your settings are here and they're pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to go in them because it might kind of screw things up. I have my screen transitions as fade, but I can have them as cut. So when I cut, it's a hard cut like you see here. Let's go back. And it just cuts to them, or you can have them as a smooth fade, which I tend to keep the fade. And you could change the duration of the fade as well. Here is where you add your sources to kind of like resize and re-input everything that you've got going on. So I'm going to go ahead and add myself to this stream. So so that you can see me in this screen and then kind of go from here. And this is how easy it is. Now I am a video capture. So because it's obviously the DSLR that we're capturing, the 5D Mark IV. When I hit OK, boom, here I am in this weird kind of effect. But not only could I, and I hope I'm not making you guys dizzy, but that's what I'm trying to do. And now Lewis Guest said, do me a favor, move cell phones, all of them, out of the room. Believe it or not, Lewis, I threw them out of the room. They actually slid out of the room into a little couch that I have there. So they're not even close. Like I said, it's a power thing. Definitely a power thing. So, okay, so not only could I have me in the screen, I could resize me, kind of put me there. And this is the trick that I wanted to show you guys if you have a DSLR mirrorless camera that does not have a clean HDMI out. Many times when it doesn't have clean HDMI out, you'll have like a border around here and then like maybe like some settings that you can't take away on your camera. I'm not sure if the 70D has clean HDMI out, but if it does, that's great. If it doesn't, then just pay attention to what I'm saying right now. So there could be borders, there could be some stuff that interferes with your perfect signal, but you still can see yourself with nothing else in the way, like in the middle. What this software allows you to do is crop yourself smaller, like I'm doing here. Basically, just crop in my face in this one shot, right? And then shove me in the corner right there. That way, if you want to live stream and you only got this little small space that you can work with to basically live stream, you could still do it. You could still connect your, I guess, like for example, my Canon 6D to this setup, and then just kind of crop in so that I can still make it look good, right? Now the signal won't be great, but at least it works. And that's pretty much how you do that. Now, I'll leave a link once I have this video posted, let me switch angles. Once I have this video posted, I'll leave a link to all this stuff. That Lewis, guess that ground loop knows that is cell phone interference. I'm a DJ in real life. Okay, now they're out of the room, but I'm gonna grab them just so that you know. Okay, if it's bad, and I'm almost knocking down my green screen here. If it's bad, then this, and I'm gonna put my cell phones right next to my audio device. They should be getting worse. And if they get worse, I can't tell from here, so you guys can let me know. Did it get worse because I put it closer to the audio device? Let me know. Now I'm going to walk away and put it as far as possible. And there are no other devices that are on besides my regular equipment, nor these cell phones. And there's no other phones, so give me a second. Is it completely gone? And if it is, Lewis, you're a lifesaver. I see that you're saying that it's gone, but is it completely gone? I see that there's still some when I'm looking at my device now, but I don't know. But thanks for your tip. If that's what it is, then that'll help a lot. And I'll check this live stream later to see exactly how it went. But that's all I've really got to say when it comes to simple live stream setup. Now, there's different ways of doing it. Now, Peter Gregg has got an amazing, you should check out his channel definitely if you just came here and wanted to see what the advice is. Peter Gregg, he's got an amazing setup for his live stream with a switchboard from Blackmagic, software running on his Mac OS, an excellent lav mic with great sound, and he's got great sound control in his whole setup, and it's multicam. That's a little bit more elaborate than what I've got here, but what I've got here is simple, not too complicated. You don't even have to be as complicated as setting up a microphone with this separate device. You can hook up a microphone directly to computer like what I said, or you can hook up a microphone directly to your camera and then hopefully have a long wire, because audio sounds better when it's closer to you, and then run it that way. But off of this software, I can tell you that there has been a delay in actual voices. That's why I prefer to hook up the microphone directly to the computer so that I can eliminate any delay that might possibly happen from the DSLR straight to the computer. Now, that's as simple as you can get, and with this setup, I've also been able to do live stream of actually video games. Now that requires a more powerful computer with a good processor, and that helps. So, according to Lewis, it's better. It comes and goes now, so you need a better isolated wire. Yes, isolated wire would help that to actually block out that interference, but I'm can also insist, and I'll actually run a test too with my laptop in another live stream, and you won't hear the interference at all, based off of the electrical situation in the room, which is basically what's causing this situation. But enough with that. I think that is the topic for another video, which I'd love to explore. And Lewis, I invite you to watch that video too, because your help has been fun. So thank you, and thank everybody for watching this live stream and the whole setup. Thank you, Peter Gregg, for sending everyone here as well. That was a huge honor to always work with you. And as always, you can like if you want. If you liked it, share it if you want to help someone else and you think that this video will actually show them good tips and tricks. And as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.